Good morning, everyone. A good tevach, Shavua Tov. We are continuing here in the Hilchos KASHRUS, the laws of KASHRUS by Rabbi Yomin Forst. And I just want to go back to one little paragraph that I skipped the other day. And this is called Tilias Kelim, hanging your pots and your pans, me'al l'kiroim, over the stovetop. What does that mean? Lefi kol mashin isbar, everything that we explained already. Yesh lihimonim elidlois kapais umazlogos. A person should not hang their spoons and their forks and similarly over and above the stovetop. Because what happens? Sometimes you're cooking, you're frying your onions, you're cooking your stew, and the lid is off, and all of the smoke, all of the sweat, like we spoke about before, is going up. All the moisture is going up from the pots and pans, and it's going on to the kalim, to the vessels that are hanging overwards. You know, sometimes you walk into the person's house, and they have right over the stovetop, they have hanging down from the ceiling, they have the pots and the pans and the serving spoons and the like are hanging there. Says of course, it's not a good idea for a person to do such a thing, because if all of that moisture is going up, if you cook meat and milk on that stovetop, and all of the smoke, all of the moisture is going up into the kalim, so then you have a pot that's getting now the moisture of the basar and of the chalav. You could be trafing up all of your stuff, and therefore a person should be quite careful. Again, if you have two separate stoves, one is fleishig and one is milchig, meaning in separate areas of the kitchen, and you want to hang over the fleishig, your fleishig pots, and you want to hang over the milchig, your milchig pots, that would be one thing, but most of us don't have that. It's all one area, and therefore to hang up even one is going to be an issue, because you're going to have the residue and the moisture coming from both. Then he writes like this, Lechem chalavi. We're talking over here about milchig bread. Gazu Chazal made a gezer, they made a decree, she'ein lalush isa b'chalav. You should not mix dough with milk. You should not have milchig bread. Why? Because they were concerned that perhaps you'll end up coming to eat this milchig bread together with meat. The same thing, don't mix chicken fat into your bread, because we're afraid that you're going to have fleishig bread and you'll end up eating it with milk. Because that's the way that people eat. People eat milk or meat with bread. And therefore, if you're going to forget, as he writes over here, our sages are very strict in this area. And they said, if a person ends up baking bread with milk in it, you can't eat that bread at all. You can't even eat it by itself. You say, I'm just going to make a melted cheese sandwich over here. No, you cannot. Because maybe you're going to forget what you have, and you'll end up coming to eat it together with meat. This happens all the time. Says Rav Forst, that basing himself on the words of Chazal, Chazal understood that you're used to eating part of bread with everything that you have in the kitchen, and if you see bread that is milchig or fleishig, it won't register in your mind that you can only eat it with milchig or only eat it with fleishig, and therefore they said it's asur. You cannot eat it even by itself, lest you come to make a mistake. However, there are leniencies in this area. Din pas ketana, a loaf of small bread. Im afarak pas ketana, you ended up baking, like, let's say, a roll. You baked one roll, and normally a person ends up finishing off that roll or that little loaf of bread in one day. Then you don't have to be concerned that you'll come to eat it together with meat. So he's saying, interesting, you baked the loaf of bread, or you break the little roll over here today, and therefore it's fresh in your mind that this was baked together with milk inside, and you're going to eat it on that day, and therefore you won't make a mistake and think that you can eat it together with fleishigs, with meat. Even if you baked more than one person can eat, Im yesh lo b'nei bayis merubim, if you have a lot of people in the house, v'yeichlu kulam b'yom echad, and everyone's going to eat it on the same day, mutar and gamkein, mutar gamkein, that would be permissible also to do such a thing. So there are ways to get around it. And he continues, pas b'tzur miyuchedes. Let's say that you made the bread in a unique shape. If you baked milchig bread in an interesting shape, you bake it in an unusual shape or dimensions, not the way that you normally bake bread, and a person who sees that remembers, oh, the reason I made it like that is because it's milchig, and you won't come to eat it with meat. You can even bake a lot of bread like this, because it has the milchig look to it, and therefore you'll remind yourself not to eat it together with meat. And more than that, and if you have bread that was baked fleishig, and you can even see the fat of the meaty fat on the bread, or you have bread that was baked together with cheese, and you can see the cheese in the bread, so that would also be permissible for a person to do such things, because then we're not concerned that you're going to make a mistake and eat it together with the opposite. You won't eat the fleishig together with the milchig, and you won't eat the milchig together with the fleishig. And lastly, ugais hamamulois beperos, if you have cake that's filled with fruits, some kind of, let's say, like a fruit Danish, you don't usually eat it together with other things in the meal. You usually eat it at the end of the meal. It's like a dessert, and you have a cup of coffee with it or something. We don't have to worry that you're going to eat it together with meat. Is given, and therefore you could take your Danish and you'll make yourself a cheese Danish, or you'll have some kind of a fruit Danish that has milchigs in there, and everybody realizes that's something that's different. It's not like a regular loaf of bread, and even if you had a fleishig meal, there's no way that you're going to come to eat this afterwards, so there's nothing really for us to be concerned about at all. And we should assume then that the halach is going to be the same if a person goes to a milchig restaurant. For example, you go to a pizza shop and they're serving you milchig bread at that pizza shop, you have nothing to worry about. You're in the pizza shop, they're only serving milchigs over there, it's only dairy products, so there's no chashash, there's no concern that you're going to end up eating that bread together with meat, certainly not in the restaurant. Maybe you'll have to be careful if you decide to bring home that bread to your house to make sure that it's nikah, there's some kind of an obvious difference of that bread between regular bread, that you wouldn't eat it with meat, but certainly, of course, in the restaurant, or you go to a catered affair and it's only milchigs and they're serving you milchig bread, obviously in those cases there's not going to be an issue at all, because it's clear that it's only for milchigs and not to be eaten together with fleishigs. Have a wonderful day.